Man, do I have the ever-growing collection of weed whackers. My goodness. Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is going to be a little bit more of a serious video. I'm not actually going to be belligerent or dumb in this one. So yeah, I have quite the growing fleet of small engines, mainly weed whackers, but there's plenty of other things. There's plenty of other crap in the shed, which you guys have seen me work on. Today's topic is these random weed whackers. So this right here and this Craftsman here, they're both Craftsman seers, showed up from my buddy Drew. They just were laying in the weeds, and while me and Brandon were going to war with our yard here, Drew came by and dropped these off, and these both run. This gray Craftsman weed whacker, this 16-incher here, seems to be running just fine. Its only real issue is the cut head is, well, I think that's the plastic blade type, and the blades are not there, so it could use a new cut head. But other than that, it seems to run okay. This guy here does run, but has some gas tank issues. The fuel line's completely rotted out, and it's kind of a unique deal. The throttle is like a chainsaw. It almost reminds me of an electric type of, cutter. Just how cheap it is, in a way. But that kind of activates this little plunger guy here, or lever. Not plunger, but lever. And that controls your throttle blade right here. It's kind of complicated because the carburetor's right here at the bottom. They got some weird automotive foam that's supposed to serve like an air filter, and it's totally rotted out, so that area needs to be cleaned up. But basically the fuel line, which runs quite the distance, totally rotted out. I put gas in this thing and she puked gas all over the place. They have a little connector here that's supposed to make it easy. They've got one side that's further in the case, so that's why I'm taking it apart, because in order to get to any of this stuff, you actually have to take the whole damn thing apart. But it's just a generic, simple fuel line. Typical. Oh, that's not too complicated. And over there in the back, the yellow weed whacker there, that's one that came from a job that me and my dad were doing. We actually had 3 small yard machines, small engine yard machines. This John Deere 250G, which is actually a Japanese engine, John Deere licensed weed whacker. It's pretty decent quality. It appears that the guy we did the job from took it in the service saw here, and they claimed that it had a bad bearing, been sitting for many years, which that part's true, and that it wasn't worth fixing. And this is common with this shop. It really kind of pisses me off. I've done business with the guy before, and he's oftentimes tried to sell me on a brand new machine, claiming that working on this old stuff will cost you too much. But things are kind of moving around here, and I kind of need to shrink things down. This place is a freaking pigsty. Though I will say it's worlds better than some places just down this exact same road. There are some junkyards that would your mind. I mean, the amount of stuff laying around, lawnmowers, vehicles. I could have a heyday making content if I could get okay from our friend John, but I try not to bug him too much. Anyway, kind of pertaining to earlier subjects, I had featured a weed whacker earlier in this channel, and a little bit on MB, I think, as well, Medio. It was in the background of one of our videos dorking around. A little FS36 steel that I got out of a dumpster and saved. I also got this guy out of that same dumpster and saved this one. This is an FS75 Pro. I was trying to get some parts for it, and it's a steel dealership, and it's called Service Saw. Well, in reality, it should just be called Selling Saw. I've got plenty of stories about this. I could go on and on. I'm trying not to get too off topic here, but even this here motorcycle of mine, this little Enduro 175 Yamaha, has a similar story matching this. I once went into a dealership looking for a circle headlamp, which is what this bike has, and they told me they don't carry those anymore and they can't get it. So I might as well buy a new motorcycle. They tried to sell me a new motorcycle over a damn headlamp. You'll spend more on fixing that bike than you will getting a new one. Same story as what the guy tried to tell me about this FS75 and that other little FS36. Now, that FS36 has left my fleet. I sold it to somebody on Marketplace for a profit. I only made about $10 or $15. I had to replace its primer bulb. I cleaned it up a little bit, got it running. I actually used it for a couple cuts around this property before I let it go. So I even got some actual service out of that machine before I let her off. And the more I used it, the healthier she got. So that was kind of the theory, is that as I fixed the weed whacker, I could use it, then later let it go for a profit, because I've got plenty of weed whackers. I got 3 right here. There goes a man with a plan. So it was not a piece of junk to invest in that little guy. This ain't going to be too hard to do. That's about the right profile primer bulb right there. So I know it's not the most exciting topic for today for us to work on, but you know, sometimes it's good to have a simple day, kind of experiment a little bit with some of my stuff, and also work towards a project that could make a little bit of money. You know, it's not going to make me much, but you know, claims it's worth working on some of this stuff, especially because of the quality. Okay guys, we're going to go ahead and, this might be a little shaky, but kind of real close up on the object here. There we go, there's your reveal. And I have to be careful because the lower part of the carburetor is also unbuckled from the primer to the rest of the body. I don't really want to disturb the gasket too much. So we're just going to go ahead and slip another bulb in. Mr. Krusty. And here's the new one. Simple as that. Yeah, it ain't no joke now. Damn weather. Like training for salvaging in the great post-apocalypse recession, whatever. Okay, just snugging them all up. That last one was not fun. Should work just fine. And the last thing I'm going to do right now is change this crappy handle out, because I don't understand why it's like that.
For whatever reason, the starter handle was zip tied to the machine.
That definitely looks like that's what belongs there. I'll bet that this might have had something to do with it. Maybe the line broke, and because they couldn't get it around this bend here, they just attached it to the weed whacker. And I don't think this was service saw, this was probably Bill. Probably just couldn't get it around this bend here to tie the knot. But, well, all you need is a pair of needle noses. A couple basic knots, nice and fat. And that is that. There we go. That's what belongs there. Throw a little 40-to-1 in there. It's my quad mix. It's actually got some decent oil. I probably should be flushing this system, but I'm just going to go for it. We may not get super lucky. It looks as though the fuel line has actually broke off of the intake there in the gas tank. Of course, that's typical. But that doesn't mean we can't make her run. We can definitely make her run on the tank. We just got to hold the weed whacker at an angle. Barking off. She is going to run. So that's pretty cool. Got ourselves a $10 John Deere-ish part, kind of generic. Yep, that looks about right. Ah, and if that plug doesn't work, I'll probably be able to make the old one work somehow. I'm pretty ingenuitive. I think it's going to be this guy, because it's got that funny looking thing there. So, I'll be honest, I don't know what that is. If any of you guys in the comments know what that is, let me know. Is this some sort of like a additive thing? I don't know what that is. I know it's on my other one. And all this extra fuel line that they sent me here will actually serve us quite well in the revival of the old Brushmaster right there that's blocking my go-kart from leaving. So we might be able to get 2 birds with 1 stone, and it only costed about $10.73. Okay, so they're not exactly the same part. This is definitely wider. I might be able to force that to fit the hole in the tank here after I get done cleaning this tank out, because it's, you know, you can see it's as bad on the inside as the out. But anyway, if I can't, I might just break these lines off and take a drill bit if I have to widen them just a little bit, because this rubber's still really good. I might just be able to, you know, force fit all these lines where they kind of belong. I'll come up with something to make this work. That's the spirit of the Mad Max way. I was saying earlier, they actually threw me the alternative plug. So all I got to do is swap the fuel lines over, because I can see that these are not part of this. They're just a little bit tight. Yep, no biggie. Just feed it through. That's probably going to be the irritating part. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit... not too bad. It actually came with some extra things like 4 primer bulbs, a spark plug, all for that low cost of $10. And I've even got extra pieces to help repair another weed whacker. So realistically, the John Deere is only requiring maybe $3 to $5 of value to get it, to running state here. So what that guy at Service Saw that I don't really like very much, his sales pitch of buying a new one, so far, not true. If you're willing to just take some time to try and revive an old machine, for a couple dollars and a few days wait, not a big deal. And I know exactly what it is, too. This guy is protecting his job. Most of the money they make there is on sales. So I get it. You're trying to bring in customers. But when it comes to a nice old beefy old, FS75 like this, totally worth saving. I still cannot believe someone threw this away as is. All I had to do was get a fresh primer bulb on it, and it runs pretty good. There are some times where it's a little temperamental. She is 25 years old or better, but hey, I've gotten some cuts out of it. The FS36 served me quite well, and then I sold it for a profit. Honestly, I think they are worth keeping going if they've got spark. And for those of you curious of the seller, they go by top parts, if I remember right. I think there's some numbers after that too. It's one of the first results that came up, and they show a picture with this goofy tank deal. This guy's quite the struggler. I'm definitely going to have to recommend their eBay page. They've done me a great service here. Alright, this is just for reference if any of you are working on one of these old units. The clear line goes to the top here. There's the primer bulb with the carburetor, so that's your return. And then below it, you see this black here, that's where mine broke off, that's the intake. So luckily I left mine there because I was starting to forget. It's been a little while since I worked on it, so I was definitely kind of forgetting who was who. This is why they give you extra fuel line right here, because this guy has a joiner right there. I'm going to take that little brass fitting off and utilize it. There you go. For the most part, I like the way it looks. I'm not exactly thrilled with this return line and brass piece. Honestly, it doesn't need it. I should have probably just put a longer line there, but I'm trying to keep the original parts kind of in the equation, even though I don't need to. It's just kind of a stickler thing of mine. But I'm going to go ahead and... That was cool. I'm going to go ahead and top that up real quick, and we'll see if we get any cycling. And then I'm going to go ahead and work on that red one, too. There it is. Fully purged. System's primed. We might have a slight tank leak. Maybe that's why it was shelved. Well, that's never fun. I'm going to basically call the 250 done. All I'm going to do on the side when off camera is probably clean her up a little bit, obviously replace this gas tank, maybe get a couple machine screws that are missing, and she's pretty much done. As far as the air filter is concerned, those blue shop towels and a hose clamp work pretty good if you can't find one. So that's probably what I'll do for that missing air filter there. Because we do want to draw the line somewhere, and then we just sell it for a fairly reasonable price. Not a bad little unit. Sounded like it was waking up pretty good, so we're going to go ahead and sunset the footage on the 250G. I'll go ahead and get this off my floor. A couple hidden exhaust springs. It's got a set of 4 of them, it looks like. Yep, it does. 2 on the out, 2 on the in. Okay, so we're in. Simple little engine. Unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to have to get into this plate here, which has a gasket. And I never like popping gaskets. and plates off of surfaces that have been welded to them for 20 years because it usually doesn't go back together good. You usually end up having to replace a gasket once you disturb it. Not always, but at any rate, this is where the fuel line would go in, so wow, how interesting. Where our fuel line is, unfortunately, in an extremely inconvenient place. Being updrafting carburetor. So here's the choke setup, and just like the throttle, it goes a real long distance. It's kind of complicated. And this should be, you know, for all you dirt fetish people out there, this should satisfy. Look at all that varnish. Ah, this thing's probably going to need all kinds of cleaning in there. So I guess it's a good thing we took that. And I'm not exactly sure why that's even gasketed, unless this was some type of air filter down here. It looks like there is definitely some suggestion of that. Not exactly sure why they bothered with all that, but anyway, let's go ahead and see if we can get that fuel line off there. And so we're going to take our spare fuel line here that came with our kit, shove it through this ridiculousness into the carburetor intake port there, and make this little guy happy. That's going to be fun right there. I'll get the needle nose pliers and work it onto the carburetor there. Maybe take a blue shop towel, of course, for air filter. Might clean this out just a little more. I see some gunk there. And then, you know, she'll be a saw blade with an engine powering it. Extra note for you guys if you're actually working on something like this. You're actually supposed to feed that down first and then send it through this ridiculousness. That's the easier way to do it. I was doing it the wrong way. It occurred to me after I turned the camera off. So you guys are going to have to let me know if you're enjoying this kind of stuff, or if you want to see me do some of my other talents like singing. If you want to see me do it all, let me know in the comments. I've got some other videos coming up, something really rowdy with this guy here, which honestly, it's all going to be pretend. We're going to be pretending to be stupid drunk mechanics. We're not. It's all acting. So everybody needs to understand that anytime I do stuff like that, like anytime I call a video Uncle Mikey's Garage or something like that, it's a joke. So I just need you guys to know that's a character. I'm going to go ahead and break the illusion right now so that I don't have those Karens in the comments complaining, you shouldn't be doing this and encouraging this behavior. Like, it's a joke. Just letting you know right now. And we all need jokes. I'm going through a rough patch in my life right now, so anything I can do with comedy, even if it seems a little much, well, hey, look at what Family Guy gets away with doing. I mean, my goodness. This thing kind of reminds me of like a dirt bike, just because of these like exhaust springs. Pretty common on older dirt bikes, even newer ones. 2-stroke exhaust springs. Quite the unit. So, in order to get to our tank, and hopefully this one isn't cracked, I mean, she's pretty old as well, I'm going to undo all this chassis here on the inside, slide this plate forward, and then I can see a screw right here that's keeping this unit down here together. There were 2 right here that I already undid. Getting to this part, not very convenient. And not a very big tank either. Behind that plate is a dirty little trick. Hidden little screw. Almost got too far ahead of ourselves. 2 more hidden screws, making for a total of 5 holding this unit together, and here we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Of course, there's one hiding right there too. It goes without saying I'm going to clean up some of this stuff, but got some very strange things going on here. So I think the tank's orientation sits about like this. There's a hole in the top here. Somebody tried to seal it with something that's, well, stayed jelly-like for years because the gas does that to stuff. And there's where the actual fuel line goes. So I guess it's good that that hole's on the top. My guess is it almost looks like it's actually meant to be there, because you can go ahead and see that's like a perfect circle. And it's a smaller line than the intake line. So my guess is that's maybe a return line. I don't know. Carburetor didn't have a place for a return on this system that I could see, unless I didn't look closely enough. I might have to go back and look at that. But if I can't find anything, I'll just run a fuel line through to it. So I'm not exactly sure about that if that's needed, if that's some kind of tank vent, I don't know. I don't know what their plan is with that. It could just be a vent. It's up real high, so I mean it's obviously going to weep a little bit of fuel. I can tell this thing already had that problem with how dirty it is on the inside. But anyway, just a funny, weird little deal. So I may have answered one of my own questions here. It comes to mind that there's no primer bulb location on the carburetor that I can see, so I believe this is a truly gravity-fed system, which would mean it would need a vent. And since the cap is so low, you can't put the vent on the cap or it would just spill right out. So yeah, that's probably supposed to be just a vent tube. The entire purpose of this joiner is you run the two fuel lines long, and as you assemble the two case halves together, you're going to snip them to length, and then this is going to make your life easier. Luckily mine looks to be in pretty damn good shape. I had to widen this hole just a little bit because I think the fuel line they went with before was smaller. The fuel sock, I don't have one right now, though my spare kit did come with a small one, so I could just, make that work for a fresh tube. Probably could have used that black line, honestly. Maybe I didn't even need this clear stuff. But anyway, I may try. This doesn't look that bad, and I can blow through it. So I might just leave this line super long in the tank, and I'll try this one out, and if it doesn't work, I can just sub in that one from the kit. That's a pretty small line, and I think the reason was they didn't want to encourage the fuel to flow up it. And I'm widening this hole so that it'll take a normal size thing, because if we do have a problem, we can always just get a plug. This will serve like a plug as is. It's going to be so long, it's not likely for the fuel to go up it, but in the event that we do have a problem, I can always just, leave this hanging out of the case somewhere and plug it. Not really a big deal. I suppose you might even be able to use this to prime the dang thing if you wanted to put, a little bit of on it. To say it, but I'm starting to kind of like this thing already. And I know it runs, so... And our yard is pretty bad around here. The grass grows on... We got 8 acres here. So this guy might actually have some use. I might sharpen that saw blade up and use it as a, a hay grass cutter. Alright, so that's where that goes. I'm just going to finish assembling it, and I think she's pretty much ready to test drive. Okay, so this unit's air filter was kind of questionable. They used to have a gasket here, gasket surface, and I couldn't really tell what it was supposed to be. So rather than research all this stuff, I've got plenty of these nice blue shop towels, and this one's got a nice pattern on it too. And you can always just take 1, 2, 3 sheets and layer it, depending on the airflow you want. Cut it to size, and there you go, simple air filter. Sometimes you can actually just take a sock too, though probably a cleaner one than that one. But, just simple things. It doesn't have to be that complicated. As long as it holds together and doesn't go into the, inner workings. With this one, it's quite the unit. There's quite the travel there, so even if it did break apart, I'm not really worried about it, because it would take a lot. This seems to be like an updrafting unit, so... Joiner piece, we're going to slide that in. Tricky little unit to put back together, but we're getting it. There's our joiner piece, that's why that's needed. Alright, so before we totally seal the deal, we want to remember to line that wire back up onto the coil there. Almost, don't want to forget that. And we just kind of got to slowly ease it together, because that gasket that I am using to hold my little fake air filter in there doesn't take much for it all to fall out. So I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera just because. Or actually, I could set it up. You guys can watch me delicately assemble this. Let's see if we can get all the pins and everything to line up. Though I might have to do it off camera, because Murphy's Law always works against me, and the camera inspires Murphy's Law, so yeah, something's not quite lined up. I gotta figure out what it is. Oh yeah, I'll bet you that knocked the gasket right out. Oh no, it's still there. Okay. It's probably the starter pole assembly. Maybe I need to... Oh yeah, we just gotta line it up. Look at that. There we go. Good guess. That was a good guess. Okay, units together. It turns over. Put that, we'll tighten our champion back down there. And get the 4 screws back in place. If I remember right, the long ones went on top. I think they do. Yep. And the only thing that's not fully serviceable on this thing yet, the only thing I didn't really replace, is the off-on switch. Unfortunately, it's one of them old-fashioned 80s, you know, and further back generic switches. It's welded in the on position, so at least it'll, you know, it'll run. If we want to turn her off, we'll just choke it until it dies. It's better for them anyway. Our paper towel stayed in place. Blue shop towel. And I'm going to have to borrow that Craftsman profile gas cap off of the gray one over there, because this one came without a cap, unfortunately. Pretty sure those are fairly generic size, so shouldn't be much to replace it, but for now we'll just borrow on the other one. And of course I got to put our shaft back in service. Last couple times we've done this, we got a nasty surprise. Hopefully this time we don't get a waterfall of gasoline or a gasifall. The moment I turned it upright, I saw the gas flow on the line below. So, yep. Huh. Wonder where that came from. Probably from my... Oh, I see. My gas cap here. This one has a vent. That's where that's coming from. Okay, so this cap has a vent on it. And this is actually from my Featherlight, because the one on the Craftsman has a thing that's keeping me from turning it out. So what I'm going to do is just take one of these gloves, since we don't want it to flow past the threads or anything. And even though those gloves aren't really rated for gas for too long, it should stop it from leaking out just for now. Yeah. Alright guys, welcome to what I like to call the Cabana Island. Cabana because of the trees, and island because the stream we have running through our property actually splits here and there, and it creates kind of a cute little island. This is an area me and Brandon have slowly been taking back, but anyway, I thought it'd be a good little test run because this guy hasn't ran in a long time, so we'll just see how she kind of does. Choke stop it since we don't have a kill switch. So she's not the sharpest tool in the shed, and my buddy Drew warned me of that. She needs a little bit of a sharpen here, but it cuts grass pretty decently. It's a little slow, but it glides with ease. Alright, this is the lower field. It's kind of a pain in the butt. We'll go ahead and see how she does on some of this stuff right here. Bit temperamental. Carburetor's probably getting some stuff passing through the old jet there. I'm actually killing it for a different reason though. This guy started to vibrate out, so I guess it's kind of nice. Maybe she was warning me, huh? Hey, you're about to lose another screw. Yep, thanks. Yeah, that doesn't cut too bad. I could spend all day doing that. It takes a little bit of time. The blade's not sharp. But after a nice sharpen, I'm sure she'll cut a little better. And one thing I do like about it is it's really light. So the only complaint I've got is our fuel system is still a little bit questionable. And it's kind of a small gas tank. And that's probably what's happening, because my fuel pipe is only dropping off in the tank right around this area. So it's probably hitting a dry spot in the tank as I'm tilting it. Should probably fill it up a little more, but yeah, not bad, honestly. A good little unit. I'll bet she'll hang on for a few cuts. You know, even if we just get some of the stuff around here touched up, I'd say that was worth the $6-7 in a few minutes to learn about a new tool. Honestly, this place just never stops growing. Looks really nice once you get things cleared out, but as you can see, it's quite the project. So, like I was saying before, guys, if you like what you've been seeing on this channel, like content such as this, go ahead and let me know in the comments. And if you like seeing me get a little rowdy and pretend to be stupid, go ahead and let me know in the comments. If you want to see some more deeper content, some philosophy stuff, or music, let me know in the comments. And if you want to see all of it, comments. Let me know what you think. I'm going to go get back to, working this place down. So you guys take it easy, and I'll see you on the next video.